Oh, he's getting
throw
serious
it in
now.
there.
Here
Oh,
we
he's
go.
getting for real now. It's about
Pack
to
it
hit.
in there.
Listen,
A little 5:30 a.m.
you
dip here
know
for Jay.
that I am a Bills fan through and through, right? I love my Bills. I played there 2 years. I think the city is incredible. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, which means I live with insufferable Chief fans everywhere, right? They're the worst. But I have to take my blinders off. I have to take my hatred in my heart out and truly pay respects to Patrick Mahomes as my Mike. 6 years as a starter, 6 AFC championships. That is insane. 14 playoff wins. To put that in perspective, the Arizona Cardinals, since like 1960, have 14 playoffs. Not just playoff wins, 14 playoff games.
Yeah.
And you talk about the GOAT, and everyone says Brady's the GOAT, and there's no arguing that. But when you look at true talent, like far as being able to be mobile, make the it play, the arm talent, the leadership, Mahomes in his 6th season is already making a run at Brady, in my opinion. And I know everyone's going to say you have to win the Super Bowls and you have to do it. And I agree. In order to be the GOAT, you got to win the championships. But in a year where everyone kind of wrote the Chiefs off as like, okay, it's a regroup year, they're going to figure it out. And then the nonsense they went through from week 1 of receivers dropping balls, guys not being able to understand, Kelsey's getting hurt, Pacheco's missing time. Patrick Mahomes, time and time again, has just been like, listen, just get me to the playoffs. Just get me into the playoffs, and regardless of what our roster looks like, we're going to have an above-average chance against every team we play because I am me. And so I will say it, and I will tip my hat to number 15 from the Kansas City Chiefs. We are lucky to watch you. You are a generational talent through and through, and when it all goes down, you will be wearing a gold jacket in Canton with probably multiple Super Bowl titles under your belt because he is so special.
Go ahead, Booney.
If there was anyone that was ever going to go after Brady, it's going to be him. Like, let's be honest. The first 6 years, you're 6 titles in. Like, you're playing in 6 AFC championships, dude. You're going to be the next GOAT. Like, eventually, we're going to be like the new GOAT, right? Like, he's doing things, and you said it. He's doing things that not even Tom Brady could do with his feet, with his arm angle, with his ability to see downfield, with his tongue hanging out of his head. Like, dude, it is so fun. And I agree with you. Remember when everybody was like, oh, just get Tom out of here, get Peyton out of here. And it's like, dude, you don't want them to go, though, because there's not a lot of guys like them. Well, now all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes was like, well, hold the fuck on, dude. I'm here now. Like, right? And it's going to go into our next Mike, who's Lamar Jackson, because he's also the next. Like, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying, though, is like, looking back, I was kind of like, I was one of those guys who was like, do we really want these guys to leave? And now I'm like, holy shit, look what's coming in. Like, these guys are incredible.
The new era of superstar quarterback is
it's special. Insane. And I don't even mind the fact that this year we saw Patrick get a little upset at times and start to get a little flustered and start to throw down a little bit. Like, that, in my opinion, is always fun to see because that's you being you to an authentic T. Like, when you sit there on the podium and you're like, played a great game. They played a great game. You know how it is. We always make fun of those guys. We're always like, you nerd. But, like, you saw him this year, like, get mad. You saw him get frustrated at his team, at the refs. And I even saw him come back and apologize and be like, you know what, you're right. I should have seen the replays. My bad. Totally messed that up. Like, dude, there was so many times this year that I was like, this guy is clearly going to be the next best player in this league for a long time.
Yeah, he's still young. That's the thing, dude.
He's
not even
under
scraped.
30.
He's not even scraped. Like, we're going to be sitting here in 10 years on the O-line committee and be like, can you believe Patrick Mahomes is going to his 11th Super Bowl? Like, I mean, I don't understand how he does it week in and week out, but I remember growing up watching Brady thinking the same thing. Like, how does this motherfucking guy do this every week? I'm a Broncos fan, right? Growing up, like, why does he keep beating the Broncos? Right? And that's what Bills fans in Orchard Park have to be like, I don't know how we beat this freaking guy. Like, this was the year. We talked about it last week. In Orchard Park, snowy, blowy. It's going to be crazy atmosphere, everything. Like, this has to be it. And Mahomes just went in there and just on your dream. Like, that's all he did. I mean, he is so good. And I know everyone gets upset about, like, people blowing him and Romo blowing him all the time and everything, but he deserved it. Like, he deserves every single piece of credit that he gets, because if you take 15 off that team, right, and this is where I always view an MVP candidate, and this is how I look at it always. if it's not for me like the best stat line, the best player, if you remove X player from that team, are they even remotely as successful as what they are? And you take 15 off of this year's Kansas City Chiefs, that's a 500 team. That's a 500 team.
Is it maybe worse than that? I mean,
I was going to say it's worse.
I mean, yeah,
Dude,
that's what
their
ceiling is, a 500 team. Yeah. If you don't have the best quarterback in the league as the trigger man.
And you guys, you talk about like the new generation of quarterbacks too, and it's amazing during the peak of the Brady and Manning era. So let's call it like 2004, 2005. Peyton's in his prime, and Brady's got like 3 rings at the time. And I feel like the league had maybe 5 or 6 dudes. Roethlisberger had come in at that time as a young quarterback. Favre was still playing at a high level. But I just pulled up like Pro Football Reference. Most of the dudes were just sort of statue, largely unathletic pocket passers, right? Peyton, and they were brilliant at it. But you had Peyton, Drew Brees was kind of coming into his own. And then you had a couple guys, like you had a Dante Culpepper before the injury.
Give me Phillip Rivers. Give me Phillip Rivers, dude. I'm not going to let you.
Phillip Rivers, he was pretty athletic in the early 2000s, too.
Stop. He's never, the word athletic and Phillip Rivers
could run around a little bit.
Has never been uttered in the same
He could run around a little bit.
For the 2000s. For the early 2000s, he was athletic, yeah.
When I was 8 years old, maybe. Yeah, when I was 8 years old. But I remember when we were in San Diego, if Phillip took off running, the entire sideline, and I do mean the entire one, would yell, "Get down!" Because when he ran, it looked like a wounded deer, like just a deer that had been like shot in its back hip, right? Just, and you're like, just fall down, please, Phillip, just fall down,
just flopping around. But once you got to like the 6th or 7th quarterback in the league 20 years ago, and this is no disrespect. You're talking like Brian Greasy, Trent Green, Mark Bulger, Chad Pennington with labrum hanging by a thread, you know. Billy Volek was top 15 in passer rating. Jake Delhomme. In this year's NFL, I mean, it's literally like Justin. You get to like, in terms of just some of the statistics and, you know, your rankings. And like everyone, not only everyone in terms of throwing the ball, but you got guys. Josh Allen is one of the most athletic players that's ever played in the NFL. I mean, he's Cam Newton. He's Michael Vick. He's all these guys that you saw. He's Dante Culpepper from 20 years ago. So it's the way they're doing it, too. Like that game. We've seen now 3 playoff games between those 2 guys. It's so much different than what it looked like with Manning and Brady. Those guys are just, it's like those guys are masters
like
pre-snap, right?
Yeah.
And they're making their checks and their Omahas, and these guys are too, but then once the ball snapped, they can run around like no one has seen in the NFL and keep plays alive and throw a ball on a dot in the corner by the pylon for a touchdown. It's insane.